Welcome to How to Talk to Kids About Anything with Dr. Robyn Silverman, a podcast loaded with practical tips, powerful scripts, personal stories, and simple steps to make even the toughest conversations easier. So get ready to get the information you need to make the impact you want from someone you trust, your friend, parenting expert, Dr. Robyn Silverman.
Did you know that authors rely on 5-star reviews to get their book out to people who would benefit from them? They really do. So here is my quick ask. If you loved How to Talk to Kids About Anything and it really helped you, please go to Amazon and write a quick 5-star review. I'm nearly at 100 of them, and I would love to get a few more to push me over. This helps to get more eyeballs on that book, according to what we know about the algorithm. And please, any of the books that you've read from my amazing guests, especially the one that's about to come on, if you love them, even a quick 2-sentence review, it can really make the difference. Thank you, and on with the show. We're living in a time when loneliness is rising. Burnout feels constant, and so many people, kids and adults alike, quietly wonder if they truly matter. We often blame social media, achievement pressure, or the pace of modern life, but what if there's something deeper at play? In this episode, we're going to explore the powerful idea that feeling valued and having the opportunity to add value, it's not just an extra in life, but a fundamental human need. We'll talk about how the erosion of mattering is impacting our mental health, our families, our workplaces, and most importantly, what we can do to restore deep connection and purpose in everyday lives. Jennifer Wallace is an award-winning journalist and best-selling author whose work explores achievement culture, mental health, and the science of mattering. You may have remembered her being on our show before. Check that out too. Her first book, Never Enough, When Achievement Culture Becomes Toxic and What We Can Do About It, was a New York Times bestseller and an Amazon Best Book of the Year. Her book now is called Mattering, The Secret to a Life of Deep Connection and Purpose. It draws on 6 years of research and hundreds of interviews to reveal why feeling valued and able to add value is essential to our well-being. A former member of the 60 Minutes team and a graduate of Harvard College, Jennifer is also the founder of the Mattering Institute and a leading voice on connection, purpose, and cultural change. Welcome, Jennifer Wallace, to How to Talk to Kids About Anything.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
I'm thrilled to have you. Very excited. I loved your book. Honestly, I really was interested. There's so many great stories in there, and I really felt connected with the information. To me, you were just speaking my language. So before we jump in, can you tell me any one thing that is super exciting right now that's happened or is happening in your life?
I would say the launch of this book, that for 7 years thinking and studying and researching and reporting on mattering. And, you don't know as a journalist if it's going to hit, right? Are my words going to resonate? And I'm just thrilled that it is resonating and so grateful.
Yes, it is. I saw you on Oprah. I was like, wow, that was a great interview. Just such interesting information. And I'm just so glad you're with us today. You talk about this beautiful concept of mattering, which is described as a feeling valued and adding value. And you say that mattering is so deeply ingrained in us that after basic survival, the need to feel like you matter takes precedence. So how is mattering so powerful when you feel it and so destructive when you don't?
Yeah, so researchers describe it as a meta need or an umbrella term, meaning it's a need that sits above other needs and includes other needs like belonging, connection, purpose, meaning. But mattering is more potent. It goes deeper. So, for example, you could belong to a classroom or the accounting department in your company, your neighborhood, even your family, and not feel like you matter to the people in that group. So as you were pointing out, after the motivation for food and shelter, it is this motivation to matter that drives human behavior for better or for worse. So when we feel valued, when we feel like we matter, we show up to the world in positive ways. We give back, we engage, we contribute, we invest in others. But when we are made to feel like we don't matter, we can either withdraw, become anxious, depressed. I quote a study in the book about suicidal men, and the two words they used to describe their suffering most often was useless and worthless. Those are the
Mm,
words of feeling like you don't matter.
mm,
Or if you feel like you don't matter, you might lash out in anger in an effort to prove you matter. Road rage, online attacks, political extremes, in my mind, are a desperate attempt to get this need met, to say, oh, I'll show you I matter.
mm. Wow, that is really powerful, and I appreciate that perspective. You begin one of your main chapters with a story of Greg, who is a firefighter who, while running into buildings and helping people in their dire moment of need, didn't necessarily knew he mattered and what he did mattered. What was missing? And can you tell us how he was able to turn this situation around as an illustration of showcasing that seeing that what you do matters really does matter?
Yes. So this surprised me in the research, but I didn't know this, that firefighters are often the first to arrive at the scene of a car accident or a medical emergency. And then after they pull, the woman out of the burning car or revive a man who had a heart attack during his morning run, the ambulance will take over and rush that person to the hospital. And then the firefighters never know what happened next.
Mm.
Did their efforts change anything? Did the woman walk out of the hospital? Did the man survive? And so he was the fire chief at North Charleston. He created a system to track the outcomes of rescues so that his firefighters would know when their actions saved a life or eased someone's suffering. And that's because we need to know we matter, right? We
Mm.
need to know that our actions are making a positive difference in the world around us. And I found this to be true in our personal lives too. So much of our lives are dealing with so much input and so much output being demanded of us that often just to get through our days, we have to go on autopilot. But what happens on autopilot is that we miss those signals. We miss connecting to our impact. We offer the advice to a friend and we never know if the advice helped,
Yes.
right? We don't close the loop. We don't circle back. So I've made a point since hearing Greg's story to really try to incorporate this into my own life. When someone introduces me to someone, I close the loop and I say, oh, we met for coffee. It was wonderful. Just let people know their actions make a difference.
Mm. I really loved that story, and he had a lasting impact because he didn't just change what was good for him and even the people right in front of him, but he had a legacy that changed that entire firehouse. So, wow. Last night, I was speaking for the National Charity League, and that's a charitable mother daughter organization that spends time volunteering for over 6,000 charities nationwide. I also happen to be a board member in my local chapter where I've joined with my daughter for the last couple of years. And I was focusing on something completely unrelated: body image, confidence, and girls. But one of the areas that I spoke about was turning away from the mirror and seeing that their service, their community, their mission, their contribution mattered so much more than their appearance, how they looked in the eyes of social media and the constant filters that they needed to use in order to just walk through today's world. In your next chapter, you focused on this idea of feeling needed because people depend on you. And you talk about Julie and her quest to feel useful again. Can you explain how, for the people who are listening right now, how if they were feeling like that they're feeling kind of empty, or that they're feeling like, I don't even know if like what I am doing, if I'm contributing, I'm not contributing, I don't know, I feel just empty in this world. How can they find a way to matter again using the framework that Julie was using to find her reason for mattering again?
Yeah, so mattering involves two essential components, feeling valued, but also adding value. And those become a sort of a positive cycle. The more
Mm.
you feel valued, the more you want to add value. The more you add value, the more you feel valued. So if you're going through a painful life transition and wondering if you're mattering again, to use your analogy about looking in the mirror, it is to take time out of your week to look away from the mirror, to look away from your own life, and find a genuine need in the world around you, in your neighborhood, in your community, in your school, in your workplace, and then use your time or your talent or your treasure to meet that need. That is a handy formula that I have found for adding value. So think about that in your head. Adding value equals finding a need plus using one of your three T's: time, talent, or treasure. And Julie, who I feature in that chapter, actually used all three. She
Mhm.
used her time, she used her talent, and she used her treasure to build to what she did ultimately. She was a caregiver for her mother. And when her mom passed away, she was left with so much of her mother's belongings. And Julie was a grown woman with her own house. And so she helped to bring her mother's things and match them to people who were starting over after experiencing a fire or homelessness. And so she connected she made that connection, and she with a friend started collecting gently used home goods and delivering them to people who could use them. That's
Mm.
how she felt a need.
It was an amazing idea. I was like, wow, that would be super handy and all over. There's not a single community that can't use that. So that was wonderful. Many people are dealing with overwhelm these days. Our kids are overwhelmed. There's demands of school and sports and pressure to secure what's next for them. Parents are overwhelmed, caretaking, work, shuttling kids around, not to mention they're supposed to be taking care of themselves. They're getting a lot from media on that too right now. I was saying to my niece this morning on the phone that my husband and I have been going to the gym 5 days a week. We've been doing this for a long time because we're just trying to make sure that we're investing in our health span and and feeling really good about ourselves, even though it's a little inconvenient, honestly. And she's like, yeah, and it would be so nice if exercising like wasn't so important to feeling good. Unfortunately, it does. Like, I'd really rather just rot on the couch, but this is what makes, you feel good. So how can prioritizing ourselves, even when it's inconvenient, honestly, ensure that we both matter to ourselves and that we matter to other people that we're caring for?
Yeah, I mean, I will say there's the chapter that I think you're referring to is this idea of mattering too much,
Mm,
where we are so critical, particularly as parents and caregivers, to meeting the needs of the people around us, so much so that our own needs, if they make it on the list, are at the bottom of the list.
yeah.
And that was certainly something I experienced as a mother of three young children. And then I was reading all of the research about how important my own resilience was as a caregiver, that my children's resilience is really rooted in my resilience. And so I started to think about practices that would enable me to matter to myself, which
Mhm.
is also critical, right? We need to balance mattering to others and mattering to ourselves. True mattering requires both of those elements. And so one of the things that I started doing, I wish I could say I'm working out 5 mornings a week, which I am not, so I will not pretend I am. But here is one thing I do. When I'm brushing my teeth every morning, I think about what is one small need that I have today that I can meet for myself to matter to myself so I can show up as my best self for the people who are relying on me, including myself.
Mhm.
And so some days it might be a long walk in Central Park. Another day it might be a phone call with my sister. Another day it might be listening to music
Mhm.
and cleaning out my closet or whatever it is that really feels like an investment in myself and making that a priority. So it's
Mm.
not necessarily mattering to yourself. It's not making yourself a priority all the time.
Right.
It's just simply tuning in to what do you need today to be your best self.
Mm. I wish I could say I was cleaning out my closets. Thank you. I was like, no, yeah, I do need
I'd
to.
rather be working out, to be honest, than cleaning out closets. But
I mean,
somehow
let's be
I'm
honest,
always
though. I
cleaning.
really do need to do that. Okay. This chapter on cornermen, oh, it was just so good. I felt like you were talking to me when you said many people, especially those who are high achieving, tend to breeze past their milestones, already focused on the next goal. I'm like, okay. And I call that list checking. So, did that, but check, I absolutely do this. In fact, I have a name for it. That's how much I do it. And it's something I have to be super conscious of, not just like, hey, I wrote a book, boop, I did my doctorate, boop, and just like keep moving on, because it doesn't make you feel very good. Like you're building up, you're building up to whatever goal it is. Whatever, somebody was saying to me earlier today that they were working on running a marathon. And I'm like, this is like such an amazing thing. Like, let's not list check that, right? So what are you asking people to do with both themselves and with others, being a cornerman, so that they don't breeze past these milestones and they take time for joy and see what matters?
Yeah. So the idea of a corner man came to me with a gentleman I interviewed who was a former boxer. And he talked about how if you don't know, I didn't know boxing before I interviewed him, but the corner man is the man in the corner of the boxing ring. He is there encouraging the boxer, giving him tough love, cleaning him up, encouraging him when he needs it. Any boxer will tell you that they are not in that ring alone. It is because of the corner man that they are able to face this this fight ahead of them. It's true for us too, that we need to invite corner men into our lives, corner people, and we need to be those people for others. So what does that look like? It looks like inviting people in to help you with your goals, to support you through setbacks, and to celebrate with you when you hit them. I say to my kids all the time that 70% of any joy that I feel on any given day is because I get to delight in the successes and joys of my friends. That I feel like an active participant in my friends' lives when they are going for the big interview, when they are writing the book proposal, when they are, doing the things, their child, has a milestone, whatever it is. I get to feel that joy because I am invested in their lives. And researchers actually have a word for this. They call it ego extension. The idea that we can extend our egos to include the egos of others, the success and the well-being of others. So in this way, being a corner man is actually a way of kind of growing beyond yourself, growing beyond the boundaries of your own physical body, your own ego. I think in our zero-sum culture, this notion of being so heavily invested in others is knocked out of us, right? Where it's too competitive. We think of life as zero sum, but most cultures don't see it this way. And actually, our evolutionary inheritance is such that we are interdependent. We are invested in each other, so much so that our reward regions of our brain light up when we have a friend who has a success. So I would say push back against the messages in our culture that winning is zero sum and realize that this just isn't true. Delight and invest in your friends and open up and let them invest in you.
I want to ask a question about those people who are listening right now who feel like the leader in their family or the leader in their work, and they feel like they're sort of at the top of the mountain and they are cornermenning for somebody else all the time. They are constantly their hype person, the tough love person, the person that is taking care of everybody. How can they ensure that they're not list checking when they're at that top level? Speak to the leader who's listening right now and give them the tough love that you need to give them so that they understand you also need to seek this out. You need to matter, and here's how.
Well, I will tell you that we are often sold this messaging by the multi-billion-dollar wellness industry that you can self-care your way out of stress and overwhelm by lighting a candle or soaking in a bubble bath. That is a great stress reducer, but it is not going to keep you resilient as a leader in your family, as a leader in your workplace. The only thing that really feeds resilience are relationships, deep, nourishing relationships that deliver on mattering. And so, what I would say to you is, or the person listening, you need one or two people outside of your home. Partners don't count. They're already taxed trying to be, you guys are already taxed trying to be one family villages. So find someone outside of your home, one or two people that you can open up to, that you can be vulnerable with, and that will be vulnerable with you. These sort of healthy, interdependent relationships. That is how we build up resilience. There's wonderful research out of the Mayo Clinic that has since been replicated of busy physicians who were also mothers. And researchers found they conducted a simple intervention where they had a small group of women of five or six meet for 1 hour a week for 12 weeks to support each other, to open up. What the women found at the end of the 12 weeks, first of all, nobody dropped out. They reported higher levels of well-being. Their stress hormone, cortisol, had dropped. And that is because, we know that a child needs a sturdy adult to thrive. Well, sturdy adults need sturdy adults too, to stay sturdy. So, what I would say to that person is, you are worthy of that support. And it's actually an act of generosity to ask someone to support you. Because when we don't reach out for help, when we don't reach out for support, not only do we deny ourselves the support we need and we deserve, we also deny our friends the chance of mattering, of knowing that we rely on them, that we rely on their wisdom. So think of asking for help as an act of generosity, of allowing the people around you to know how much they matter to you.
Mm. And it is such a privilege to feel like you matter
Yes.
and that somebody relies on you. That is delightful when your friends allow you to be that person. Finally, when mattering takes a hit, when we have that big transition, when we lose whatever was helping us to feel like we mattered. I know you talked about that empty nest syndrome or somebody who moves and, everything changes or they lose their job. What is the next step or two for that person so that they can build that back up to feeling like they matter again?
I wish I had known what it is about transitions that can feel so hard. We tend to personalize these transitions. We tend to personalize the fact, obviously, if we lose a job or we lose a loved one or we move and we don't know anybody, we personalize it. We say, why are we so uniquely bad at coping with this?
Mm.
But these transitions are hard. Life transitions are hard. And one of the reasons they're hard is that they really rattle our sense of mattering. So,
Mhm.
mattering doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists in relationship with others, the people in our lives that we feel like we matter to, knowing where it is that we add value. And so, if you are going through one of these transitions, I would say, know that you're not alone, that all of us, this is a commonality in human nature. All of us will go through these life transitions. The second step is look for role models, right? If you know that other people have gone through this, look for those people. Ask them out to lunch. If you don't know anybody, read a nonfiction book about it, or a memoir, or even a piece of fiction, or a podcast, or an article about how to cope through those transitions. Look for a kind of blueprint that could help you make it through your transition. And then I would say harness the power of invitation, both accepting invitations and issuing them. We often feel when we're going through one of these painful life transitions that we want to get our lives in order before we reach out for help, before we accept invitations. We think people don't want to see into our messy lives. But there's actually wonderful research called the beautiful mess effect, which turns this idea upside down. What it finds is that we often underestimate how much our vulnerabilities, our messy lives make us authentic as relationship partners. So actually that struggle that you're going through, the challenge you're going through actually makes you more authentic and it actually brings people closer to you. So the first thing is I would say, don't wait for your life to be perfect. Invite people in, accept the invitations. And then if you're not getting invitations, I interviewed a woman in the book who went through a very painful divorce and talked about how her social life had collapsed. And her therapist said to her, well, then you start inviting people into your kitchen for dinner. You have agency here. So we do have a responsibility to make ourselves useful again. I have really come to believe this in my 7 years of studying mattering, that it is, to me, it is the tax we pay as humans on this earth that all of us need to contribute and be useful. And it's not just to make society better, it's also to make us feel better.
Mhm. So beautifully said. Can you give us your top tip? What would you hope people come away with after listening to this podcast, after reading your book, that you absolutely want them to take in and use in their own lives?
Well, first, I want them to know that they have agency when it comes to their own sense of mattering. That if you are struggling, if you are feeling like you don't matter, to know that you are one decision, one action away from being on the path to mattering again. And that what I have found over and over again in my interviews was that the fastest way to feel like you matter is actually to remind someone else why they do.
Hmm.
So if you are not feeling like you're valued, like you don't matter, start adding value. Be useful again. That will build up your sense of mattering.
Mm. Mm. Yes. Give us the resource of the week. Where can we go to get more information about you, your book, and the work you're doing?
So you can head to my Instagram handle, which is at Jennifer Wallace, or you could head over to my website where I have a monthly newsletter. Yeah, I have a program that's also on my website called the Mattering Ambassadors, which is a free online program where we meet, every once in a while over a webinar and talk about mattering. We're going to bring in Greg the firefighter is coming to the next
Nice.
Mattering Ambassador webinar in April. So anyway, come join us.
Mm. That sounds like fun and sounds like you'd feel really good by the end of being there. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I know you have been so busy in such a whirlwind, bringing this book to so many places. And I just appreciate you stopping here with How to Talk to Kids About Anything and sharing your wisdom and your strategies and really your insights on how we can matter more and how we can remember that we truly matter in life. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. This was wonderful. What a great conversation. Thanks.
Loved it. Loved it. Well, I've got my takeaways, and sweet friends, I know you have yours, so let's discuss them. Come up on Facebook. You can go to the Dr. Robyn Silverman page. We can chat about it on Instagram. I'm going to be going back and forth with Jennifer all week long, talking about this podcast. We'll have clips from it, and we will have little quotes from it because, as you know, Jennifer Wallace is full of great concepts and great quotes, and we want to share those with our friends and our family. And if you love this podcast like I did, I would hope you would go up to iTunes and rate and review it, because more people learning about this podcast and hearing what Jennifer was just saying, that is good for everybody. It's good for them to read the book and apply it to their own lives. And it's good for the podcast so that people learn more about it and can hear other podcasts and amazing guests. I truly appreciate it. That's all the time we have for today. My fellow parents, leaders, and educators, thank you so much for tuning in to How to Talk to Kids About Anything. For more information on books, articles, speaking engagements, or curriculum, you can go to drrobynsilverman.com. So many great podcasts up there. And the show notes to this podcast will be up there as well. I look forward to weathering the storms and enjoying the sunny side of life together. And please remember, even on the days when you fall short, you've got this. You matter. You're here and you're getting the information you need. I know it's not easy, but never forget there's typically a tomorrow. Parenting often provides the ultimate do-over. So if you heard something today and you're saying, I did not do that, I did not have that conversation, I completely messed up, know that you can do things differently right now. You can take what Jennifer said and apply it today. You can make that change. Start now. And if you said something that you wish you didn't, or you wish you said it differently, try again. I see you and I'm right there with you. And as there are moments when we doubt our know-how, our choices, and our sweet sanity, please know you are 10 times the parent you think you are. Until next time, this is Dr. Robyn Silverman with How to Talk to Kids About Anything. Please tune in again and keep connecting through conversation. See you next week.
You've been listening to How to Talk to Kids About Anything with Dr. Robyn Silverman. For more information on books, articles, speaking engagements, or curriculum, please visit drrobynsilverman.com.